Hello everyone and welcome back to day 27 of our F125 Hotlap and Setup series. Yesterday we returned here for the reverse Zandvoort layout. Now this one, I must admit, when I first started doing some laps, I thought I'm never going to get anywhere around this circuit. It is all about maximum kind of confidence in the car, maximum attack around this circuit. Honestly, I find the quicker you get, it sounds really odd, but the more confident you become as well around this venue. It is all about carrying speed. It is about trying to obviously drag as much out of a corner as you possibly can around this venue. Of course, I hate this place normally inside F125. I think for racing, this version is going to be even worse. I can't see really anywhere where you're going to be able to try and go for moves against the AI. But obviously we're doing that in career mode in the not too distant future, so we'll wait and see as to how that goes. But obviously, yeah, this is the last of our kind of daily original setups inside this game as well. A massive thank you to everybody throughout the support in pretty much obviously the last month. 27 of these setups each and every single day. Obviously, like I've said many times before, I will be returning. I'll be doing some wet setups, I'll be doing some F2 dry and wet setups, and a few other little bits and pieces as well. And then obviously updating these as we go through F125 and as the meta changes. Of course, if you don't know what this is about, we basically go through, I give you guys a race-ready setup inside F125. I talk you around the circuit, where your braking markers should be, and, you know, kind of what you need to be looking for. And then last but not least, I show you a hot lap. This one, I'm hoping I've saved the best hot lap till last. I just was able to scrape under the 1:10 barrier here. I think, honestly, this race is going to be a two-stop, especially with the setup I've gone with, because a one-stop here at Zandvoort seems to be really, really difficult anyway. And this place, yeah, this way around is brutal. But yeah, as always, timestamps link down below, and let's get into our track guide. While making our way then in through the banked final corner. Of course, you want to get this car nice and early on the throttle to carry the speed to start a lap here at Zandvoort. Open up the DRS. Of course, turn one now completely flat out. You're going to be all the way up in 8th gear by the time we make it in. Try and hug the bottom of the circuit, though, as best as you can before we immediately are met with turn 2. Now, try to brake about 70 meters out from the corner. You can brake as late as like 60 or even 50 if you're feeling very, very confident. But I would say, especially in race trim, just avoid the curb entirely. Obviously, a bit like you do the other way around. That curb is absolutely brutal on the outside. Most of the curbs around this circuit are absolutely brutal. I like to bring the car all the way down into 4th gear. Try and carry the speed through as best as you can. Don't be afraid to get 2 wheels out on the grass on the exit. As you can see on my real lap, I think I get pretty much all 4 out there. But just be very, very careful on the throttle. Back up into 6th gear. You want to be braking at the 50-meter board, ready for turn 3 there. A really, really tricky corner that gets tighter and tighter as you make your way through. Get the car down to 2nd, hug the apex quite tight all the way through to open up the run through the next corner. Try and leave it in 2nd as you get on that throttle. Use the curbing on the outside up to 3rd. And then open the DRS. Of course, the circuit slowly arcs round to the right-hand side, but you want to follow a fairly straight line as we make our way up in towards the next corner. Again, you want to be braking just at the start of the outer curb here, but again, try not to use any of the curbing there. Bring the car from 7th gear all the way down into 3rd, and try and go for a really, really late apex. Getting on the throttle really, really early as well on the exit, but it's so tricky not to get any wheel spin. Try to arc the car slowly back over to the right hand side, and then braking just as you get to this little tarmac runoff area. From 5th gear back down to 3rd. Again, try to get the car as close to the apex as you can. It's a really tricky nondescript corner through there, and there's a little bump on the exit as well, which can make trying to get the power down even more awkward. Be really, really careful though. Again, you don't want to use much curbing on the outside. You can bring it up to 4th and lean on it slightly, but I would really recommend just avoiding it at all costs. Back up through 5th gear. Don't short shift to 6th before you get through this corner. Keep the back end planted, and then 6th gear on the exit. You can use some of that curbing on the outside line and then leave it in 6th gear as you make your way up the hill. You'll just maintain a bit more revs, and you'll have the speed as we make our way out over the top. Again, don't be too worried about nudging the grass, but as we make our way downhill up into 7th gear, then of course all of this section completely flat out, basically obviously from like the normal turn 8, I think it is. These last 3 corners have all been completely flat, and then we make our way into the banking, braking about 80 meters out, nice and late on the brakes there. Get the car all the way down to 3rd gear, try to carry the speed through, be really, really careful on the throttle on the exit. It is super easy to get some wheel spin, but then up through 4th, and then ideally 5th gear as well. These 2 corners are just about flat if you absolutely nail them. Otherwise, they are super, super close. I would say, again, in race trim, you probably want to be blending the throttle slightly just to make sure that, obviously, you're making it through. Be very careful not to get the car wedged over this outside curb, though, on the exit. And then we have made our way back towards the final corner here. 6th gear on entry, bring the car all the way down to 3rd. I like to try and hug the apex as best as I can, even use 2nd if you're struggling with understeer. Get on the throttle as early as you possibly can on the exit of the corner. Open up the DRS on the run back round towards the start-finish line. And there we go then. That is going to be a lap of the Zandvoort circuit. The corners come thick and fast at you here, just like they do the other way around. But yeah, a few more of them are a little bit easier. Obviously, most of Sector 2 are being completely flat out there. But Turn 2, the final few corners as well, they are brutal. They are unforgiving on this layout. Like I said, it's really a track where you've kind of got to build up the confidence and learn what you can and can't get away with. But anyway, let's head back to the pit lane and I'll talk you guys through the setup. Well, having a look then at our leaderboard here, as you can see, we're about a second away from the top times in the world. 430th, though, I'm pretty happy with. Like I said, it was quite a sweaty lap around this circuit. You can see, I think we've got 4 drivers that have made it under the 1:09 barrier. I'm just happy to have gone sub 110 inside this game. I would assume there's probably about 500 people or so. Oh, there we go. Sorry, we're 178th in the world, which I'm pretty happy with. So a lot quicker than I thought I would be. 185 people have been able to do that. I think that's actually just PC only. So if I go find me, we can see how many people have gone sub 110. 455 people, so a rather exclusive club inside F125. Taking a look, though, at our setup, pretty much maxed out downforce as you normally run around here, 48-45. You need to have that confidence through the corners. You need to be able to kind of drag the front end in as best as you can. So, fairly similar wing angle to what we run the other way around. 90-25 for the diff settings. Honestly, I was trying to run it slightly more unlocked to find a bit more confidence in the tyres. It just doesn't work. You have to run 90 around here. Some of those bank corners are really, really tricky, and you want that diff locked up. Otherwise, you're just going to find yourself wheel spinning on corner exit. 25% on the off-throttle diff, though. Completely standard toe and camber angles, as we pretty much always run inside this game. Really, really firm suspension, though. 39.7 front and rear suspension. Quite soft anti-roll bars, though. 6 and 9 work pretty well around here. And then 23.50 for your ride height. Again, if you're still struggling with the curbing, I would run these at like 27.52. But you don't want to run a lot higher than that, otherwise you're just going to be costing yourself speed. Especially through the bank corners, it can be really, really awkward. 53.98 for your brake bias. Normally, I run obviously 54 or 55, but this circuit I was finding the fronts lock up really easy, so I'm running 53 here. Obviously, if you guys are struggling, I would try and move the front brake bias a little bit forward. But of course, obviously, then if you're locking the rears, try and shift it back ever so slightly. And obviously, again, if you're still struggling, you can reduce the brake pressure just to make your life a little bit easier. 29.3 for your front PSIs. I'm running slightly offset rears, 24.1 on the right-hand side, and then 23.4 on the left-hand side. Of course, normally it's the left-hand tyre that takes the beating here. Now, obviously, it's the right-hand side tyre because a lot of the long corners are left-handed. I would say this track should be a 1-stop, but I honestly think a 2-stop. If you're shredding through tyres, you need that confidence, you need that speed. Overtaking here, though, is going to be really, really awkward, so I would focus on trying to make the 1-stop happen, but obviously if you have to go for a 2-stop, then hopefully you can have a big advantage towards the end of a Grand Prix. I'd say aim for 14 laps on the mediums, 22 laps on the hards. Again, this is one of those circuits where the hard tyre is going to be your best friend inside F125, or try and go like 12 laps mediums, 12 mediums, 13 on a second set of mediums, and then like 10 or 11 on a set of hards towards the end, or even 13, 10. Obviously medium, soft throughout a Grand Prix as well. It's tricky, it's brutal. I think I saved the hardest circuit right to the very end, but thank you all, like I said in the intro, for watching all of these dry setups. I'm going to probably move to like once every other day, or kind of 3 a week setups from now on, obviously, as we move into the other ones inside this game. It has been really good fun, obviously, doing all of these, but, you know, the dry setups are the most important ones. Obviously, the wet setups are going to be useful, and the Formula 2 for anybody that gives them a go. I'm not expecting those videos to do very well either, but, yeah, I'm going to leave you guys with a hot lap for now. Get yourselves subscribed, we're still trying to hit 15k, and yeah, hopefully we'll be back very soon with more F1 25 setups.